The situation in Gaza City is reaching a critical point with a potential humanitarian crisis looming. The Israeli military's decision to urge residents to leave and its subsequent bombing of high-rise towers has sparked controversy and raised urgent questions. In a bold move, the Israeli military has ordered Palestinians in Gaza City to evacuate to the south, specifically to a designated area in Khan Yunis. This directive comes as Israeli forces continue their offensive in the northern city's suburbs, advancing deeper into the urban area. But here's where it gets controversial. The military's actions have been met with resistance and skepticism. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, backed by right-wing allies, has instructed the military to capture Gaza City, claiming it's a Hamas stronghold. However, this decision has faced opposition from Israel's military leadership, creating a divide within the country's strategic decision-making. Despite this, the military has mobilized tens of thousands of reservists to support the operation. The assault on Gaza City threatens to displace hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who have already endured nearly 2 years of fighting. Before the war, Gaza City was home to around 1 million people, nearly half of Gaza's population. A potential displacement of such a large number of civilians has raised concerns among humanitarian organizations and international observers. Israeli military spokesperson Avichai Adrei has assured those fleeing that they will receive food, medical care, and shelter in the designated area, which he describes as a humanitarian zone. However, the military's actions, including the bombing of high-rise towers, have sparked debates about the nature of these zones and the safety of civilians. One such tower, targeted by the Israeli military, was claimed to be used by Hamas without providing evidence. The military asserted that civilians were warned in advance, but the absence of evidence and the potential for civilian casualties have led to questions and criticism. Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, shared a video of the tower's collapse, but the impact and casualties remain unclear. The Israeli military justifies its actions by stating that Hamas used the building for intelligence gathering and that explosive devices were planted nearby. Hamas, however, denies these claims, stating that the building was used to shelter displaced Palestinians. Before the strike, Gazan health authorities reported at least 23 Palestinians killed on Saturday, including at least 13 in the Gaza City area. These reports highlight the human cost of the ongoing conflict. The Israeli military's offensive has been characterized by heavy strikes on Gaza City for weeks, with forces advancing through outer suburbs and now within a few kilometers of the city center. This escalation has left Israel increasingly diplomatically isolated, with some allies condemning the campaign's devastating impact on the small territory. Amnesty International has urged Israel to halt its offensive and the mass displacement of Palestinians, warning of the destruction of homes and the killing of civilians. The organization's plea adds to the growing international pressure on Israel to find a peaceful resolution. And this is the part most people miss. The war in Gaza is not just about military strategy. It's about people, their lives, and their right to live in peace. The conflict has led to a growing movement within Israel, led by families of hostages and their supporters, calling for an end to the war through a diplomatic deal that would secure the release of the remaining 48 captives. Palestinian militants took 251 hostages into the enclave after a Hamas-led attack on southern Israeli communities in October 2023, resulting in the deaths of approximately 1,200 people. Since then, more than 64,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, according to local health authorities. The enclave has been reduced to ruins, and its residents face a dire humanitarian crisis. Hamas, which has ruled Gaza for nearly 2 decades but now controls only parts of the territory, has offered to release some hostages for a temporary ceasefire. This proposal echoes the terms discussed in July before negotiations mediated by the U.S. and Arab states collapsed. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that Washington is engaged in very deep negotiations with the Palestinian militants. Hamas has long maintained that it will release all hostages if Israel agrees to end the war and withdraw its forces from Gaza. The situation in Gaza City is complex and emotionally charged. It raises questions about the balance between military strategy and the protection of civilian lives. As the conflict continues, the world watches with bated breath, hoping for a peaceful resolution that prioritizes the well-being of all involved. What are your thoughts on this critical issue? Feel free to share your perspectives in the comments below.